am Jimbo Paris, and you are listening to The Jimbo Paris Show. All right, how's it going, everyone? This is Jimbo Paris. Welcome to The Jimbo Paris Show. And today we have Dr. Mohan Ananda, and he is a CEO of the International Acquisition Corp. And he operates sort of a blank check company, and he's the executive expert of the Second Opinion. And again, very successful man. Let's see what he has to say.
Thanks a lot. Thank you.
Okay, great. So can you tell me who you are, what you're about, and what your message is?
Yes, let me start with a little brief background. I came as a student from India in 1967. So it's many, much older than you, many years ago. And I came to Pasadena, in beautiful part of Southern California, as a student at Caltech, California Institute of Technology. And then I lived throughout the rest of my life in Southern California. I have 3 stages in my professional background. I started as a scientist. In fact, I have a PhD in astrophysics, worked with NASA on interplanetary travel. And also, I'm kind of one of the key architects for GPS, Global Positioning System. So that's my science-related stage 1. Then I became a lawyer, and I've been a lawyer, of course, ever since. And I helped with technology companies, intellectual property areas, starting, raising capital for them. So things of that type in my second career. Then I converted that into become an entrepreneur, and I have my own started a number of companies. Some are failures, some are successful. I took 3 companies public. Actually, this is the current one. Fourth one is the 4 companies public, and I have raised over $1 billion in the public market. And I also, one of the companies I started, I sold it to, it is a public company. Then I sold it to a private capital people for $6.6 billion. So that's kind of a summary of my background.
All right, excellent. And you have an extremely impressive track record. You know, you've accomplished quite a bit.
Thank you.
So where did this passion begin?
I came as I said, a student. My interest was doing something very innovative. I mean, scientific. Because of course, when you're young, you always think of creating something wonderful. So that was my interest. Then, as I did a lot of interesting things, actually, I used to be, traveling throughout the world actually, and also I happened to be more of a liaison for United States with the NATO countries on GPS, because GPS is a weapon system. So, but since I was traveling, and my wife is also a physician, so she's very busy working. So it kind of made me to say that maybe I should change my career, and that's how when I became a lawyer, because I don't need to travel a lot. So that transition happened. But while working with as a lawyer, I started working with very smart people, starting companies. Very. So I thought maybe I should follow them and became an entrepreneur myself. So passion is more of a transition. The initial was science, but then I knew as you get older, you cannot be that creative. If you go back and look at all the Nobel Prize winners, most of their work, 90% of their work was done when they are young, below 30 or around 30. But as you get older, so I knew maybe I'm getting older, so I want to become more of a businessman, not looking at fundamental science. That's just a kind of an add to what I said.
What do you think was your first step into science as a child?
It's just coming back from India, parents always like people to get good education. So that's kind of something I'm it is socially I'm used to. So I used to be a good student. I mean, I am still a good student, but I've been so as the good students end up in science. So and mathematics applied, of course, science is practically mathematics in the sense. So I was good in mathematics. That's the how I ended up in. So I wanted to do more like astrophysics. Physics is solving fundamental questions of the universe or science. So that's how I ended up in.
Hmm. Okay. And do you think your experiences in India may have helped you as a scientist, the culture?
I don't know because I was young. Of course, the parents always support or insist you go to school and you study well. I mean that is very much, at least in the family friends I know. So that must have given that because the way the parents think, the education is the best wealth you can give it to the children because they can use the education to be successful. And I still believe in that. Education is the way to change the world, and people have to be knowledgeable to do the right thing.
When you say do the right thing, what do you consider the right thing?
That's a very very important question. The right thing, in fact, in my religion, I don't know whether you're that familiar with. There is a scripture called Gita. Bhagavad
Hmm.
Gita is it's 18 chapters in a big scripture called Mahabharata. But that it's a conversation between uh, the so-called the Hindu god Krishna and one of the Arjuna. There was a war. In the war scenario, there is a conversation. That is the 18 chapters. I mean, it's an interesting story. But I'll,
Hmm.
the reason I'm bringing up what is the right thing. So there is conversation because this Arjuna asked Krishna and asked about there is a war going on and I have to kill some of my relatives in the war. Is that, I don't want to do it. So tell me what I should do. Then Krishna tells, look, you have to do the right thing. So what is the right thing? In a very simple sense, you believe in your best judgment. What is the right? You do that without expecting any specific return for you. That means in a business, there is this concept in America or in the world, the return on the investment. So you do to maximize the return on the investment. So people sometimes do things wrong and to get the maximum return. But I don't believe that's the scriptures tells that's not the way you should do it. You do the right thing without expecting any the payback, uh, but the results will be good for you. So that's it's very hard to say, well, there is nothing written which is right, but the what you based on your best information. Like I've been a CEO on different occasions in many companies. I follow that principle. I do what is good based on the best information I have, and many times it has helped. But I've done also something wrong, but then I try to correct it in going forward.
That's a very interesting way of phrasing it. You know, you do what's good based on the information you have because you could have good people that may not have the most information and they may accidentally do something in other people's eyes which may be a bad thing.
Yes,
You know?
that happens. Believe me, that always happens. But you have to, in your own mind, using your common sense, your use of your kind of principles. So, you certainly have certain use that to distinguish whether you're getting the right information. So you have to do your homework. But things can go wrong. That happens. But the right thing is based on your convictions. What you believe is this is the right thing to do. That's a tough. Nobody gives you and tell you these are the right things, these are bad things. No, you have to make the judgment. That's your judgment. And you take responsibility for it. But it should not be the thing to do to maximize the return. It is to do, you do the right thing irrespective of the return. And the return will become good for you. I don't know
What's
whether
one experience?
I don't know whether that is really the way many of the investment principles are, because whenever you do things, you want to maximize the return on the investment. But I think the maximum will happen if you do the right thing.
Okay, okay. And that's a very interesting, philosophy that you have. And when did you? Can you give an example of when you've actually experienced this in your life?
Every step of the way, every step of the way. For example, when I got my admission to uh, college in America, from India, I had I had job offer from India. I mean, a good job offer. My parents were very thrilled that I got it. Because they didn't want me to go that far. It's a long way from India, and I didn't have any. This is 1967. No friends, no relatives, nobody. So I'm coming to a strange country, a strange way. So they said, you now have a good job. You can be very successful. Why go? They were not really in support of my coming to America. But I said, look, the reason I'm going is not for making money or anything. I mean, of course, you need money to live, but I got admission to one of the best universities in the world, California Institute of Technology in Pasadena. It's in fact another, I would be working with Richard Feynman, a Nobel Prize winning physicist, and I'd be working with the greatest mind in the world. So I said, that's what I'm going to do. I mean, of course, I have to convince my parents it's okay, nothing will happen, I'll do fine. So, as an example, I started from there and I continue to do everything I do. I look at, is this the right thing to do? And then I go on.
Good, good, good. And as we kind of go more in depth in your career, you know, can you talk about the acquisition corp a bit?
Oh, that is a very recent, which is, I mean, I just want to make sure that everybody knows it's a SPAC. SPAC is a special purpose acquisition company. And SPAC is a blank check company, meaning it does not have a company really. There is nothing is done. You go to the market, meaning to the investors, and say, look, I know what I'm doing. I want to raise money, and I tell them this is how I am going to. I will find the right company in the space. Like when I went for this pack, I told them I'm going to do in the digital technology, meaning the up and coming, or in a related artificial intelligence, or anything which is the state of the art. I'm going to find a company and merge, but I need to raise the capital. So I went and convinced the market. Then I went for an IPO and raised 230. As a matter of fact, we went for 200 million. We had about $1 billion on the table. People were ready to invest $1 billion. I mean, the investment banking people told me, uh, do you want to increase your raising capital? So I thought about it, but there is it's always a good and bad. But I made a decision, no, I'll just use that what's called over allotment, which is 15%. So 230 we raised. So we had a very good support from the investment community, thinking they think or they thought we would be able to come up with the right company to merge with, which we haven't done yet. I'm in the process. Hopefully it will happen soon. As soon as once it is, I then only I can disclose it. I will make the announcement. And that's the confidence they had in, all SPACs are like that. Of course, they thought I have a good experience, what I have done. And now it's like a conventional IPO. I've done 3 conventional IPO, which means you have a real company and you go to the SEC and say that, look, there is an S1 registration and a lot of regulatory requirements. And but they are looking primarily at the numbers, meaning, how much money you revenue, how much profit or how much EBITDA, things like that. And based on that, you can raise the money. Here in the SPAC world, no revenue, nothing, but they are looking at the people, the team. The team is good, so they will bring the right connection or demerger or de-SPAC and bring the company to the public. That's the step, and that I don't know whether I've explained it clearly, but that's the process in SPAC.
So from what I understand, one company brings together more of the money aspect, you bring together more of the people aspect, and then they come together.
Yes, but they don't in this demerger. They don't they don't go to any investment. They just come to us and we make an agreement, and then it automatically becomes public. So it's a general an IPO is a one company with one step going public. Here, the company is already public and raised the capital, and we bring the company to it and demerge it. So it's an easier process rather than the conventional IPO process.
Okay. And if you could just explain what the demerging is.
Demerging is combination. That is our company. Like for example, we have this innovative international acquisition Corp is the company which is actually registered in Cayman Islands. The reason is most companies are registered in Delaware in US, but the reason we did it, we may have a potential company outside the US, and if it
Hmm.
is Delaware, if a company is outside the US, to bring it together makes it a little bit more. It can be done. People have done it. You can do it, but it is more cumbersome. But if you start with a Cayman or an outside company, then the demerging will become much simpler because the regulatory requirements, filing papers, that makes much simpler and it's faster. So that's the reason we did it. Now, once we find the company, could be anywhere, Europe, Asia, doesn't matter. Then we bring we submit again. You have to go through the regulatory requirements like filing what we call S4, and if it is a overseas stuff, sometimes F4. That papers have to be filed, and also they have to make sure that everything is done properly. Then you have to get a shareholder approval. Our shareholders have to say, okay, this is a good merger or this is the right company. And once you get the approval, then you become listed in the company. That's the process.
Hmm.
I made it very simplified. It's a little more involved and complex steps, but that's in principle, that's the process we need to go through.
Excellent. And so what makes this company, hmm, what's what I'm looking for? What's one challenge you had working with this type of corporation?
In the DSPAC process, or you are talking about general any corporate?
We're talking more about the SPAC right now.
Yeah,
Yeah, so SPAC, please. Yeah.
in the SPAC. Okay, the thing is, whenever you talk to the companies,
Yeah.
you have to go through and get the right information. So there is a process called due diligence, meaning they will provide you the information, but we may not know everything is done right. So we engage a accounting firm or other company. They go through and they take a deep dive. First of all, we create what you call a data room. A data room, this provide every aspects and under of course it's all under NDA. You need to sign a non-disclosure agreement, and so that if it didn't go through, nobody else gets it. So it's under an NDA. They provide everything in the data room, and the due diligence team will go and verify and validate all the data. For example, if there is they have a certain customer type, they will be going and talking to the customer. They will make sure that everything is correct. So there is a full diligence activities have to go through, and it's a process in itself. And then they have to come up with a report, which is like in any transaction, there is what is called a fairness review, in that you are telling your shareholders, the investors who have put money into it, tell them, look, we have done this homework, and there is an independent, objective people have reviewed it, and they are providing the fairness. Okay, they have done a good job. The company is, whatever you are getting is all within the regulatory compliance requirements they met. That process is very, very important.
Hmm. And so for the report process, is that the process that you're the most involved in, or is it more of the data?
No, it is, we are working with the team. They give the report to us, so we can say that we got an objective report. It's not
Oh,
we provide. So they have a certain fiduciary responsibility, because they know. I mean, if something they didn't do it right, they take responsibility, and we rely on it. And we tell our shareholders we have used them, and they are the one. And the report is, consisting of all these things.
okay. So you work with these types of people to
Correct.
do.
We have
Okay.
done that. For example, I have, my prior experience, we have sold a public company, Stamps.com, to a private equity firm, Tomo Bravo. It's a very large firm. And they, obviously, I'm on the other side. I'm in the company side. Now I'm sitting on the acquisition side. So there is you can play it whichever side you are in, but the responsibility is the same. The buyer has to do the complete review. The seller has to provide all the information. So from a stamps deal, I was in the providing the data to the data room, making sure that everything is properly done. And in this SPAC side, I'm in the other side of acquisition side. So I have experience from both sides.
Ah, okay, okay. So, all right, all right. So, I think this is a great stage to actually get into your experience in stamps.com as well. You were the founding chairman. Can you get into that as well?
Yes, certainly. I actually, that's the place I'm sitting. That's where I started the company, the same chair. So that was 25 years ago. And what really how it started. I came up with, I told you I was a IP lawyer and working on. At that time, I started uh, doing research myself and applying for patent for myself. And it's 92, I came up with this so-called patent application for e-commerce. It's my patent. I have three or four patents in that space, and all of them are like a foundational patent in the e-commerce. Now you see e-commerce everywhere. The whole world is in the e-commerce space. But when I started, there was practically no internet. Internet is just starting. But I saw the growth in that space, and I created that technology or platform, which is basically very, very simple, even looking back. But at the time, it was not understood. It is a very secured communication through internet, and to make sure, like if you know the SaaS or the software as a service, that's thing you are basically providing the capability to a customer, but you're kind of you're the developer or the provider in charge, but they can use it, and but you control, so you know how they use it. So that technology was developed. Of course there have been amazing new improvements subsequently, but mine is more like a foundational patent. With that patent is how the stamps start. The reason is the stamps, the concept is, I don't know whether you're familiar with Pitney Bowes machine, franking machine, which of course is a machine which has a gadget with which then you can print stamps. So it's secure because of the
Hmm.
gadget. I said you don't need any gadget. You can use any computer and do the same thing, which
Hmm.
is really the because you're printing money now. Of course, you can't do it without the approval of the United States Postal Service, and either they approve or they don't. If they approve, you're in good shape. But if they don't approve, you have nowhere to go. But this technology is the the way you could do it because you can securely print money and you can control. I mean, of course, you can print, meaning you have you can clearly identify it, who did it, how it did, how much it, everything is uh, you can control, or somebody can know, meaning the whoever the authorizing person can. But anyway, the technology was developed, and it's a very hard job to convince. Of course, you have to raise capital to start a company, but nobody would. When I went and talked to many venture firms, they liked it, but they said they can't put any money in because USPS has not done any new technology, and if they don't approve, you're out of it. So if they get the approval, you get the approval, then come back. We can talk about it at then. But anyway, so I had to put my own money into it. But I went and talked to the USPS, and of course they finally we got. So it's a hard work. They approved, and then things start evolving, and the company became successful. I mean, I made a very simple kind of it's a 25-year of journey. Started the company in 1996. I sold it in 2011.
Wow.
21. I'm sorry, 2021.
And those patents, did you get those patents during your PhD?
No, 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 no. This is subsequently. I finished my PhD in 1972. There was no internet or anything in 1972. Nothing.
Okay.
This happened in the late 80s to 90. There was what is called the DARPA network. That was more institutions like, of course, Tech was one of them, MIT and various other defense institutions we had a network. But that's where the concept, I was involved in it, because I worked for creating GPS, so I know it's very, very much into that area. But from a commercial applications, it actually happened only in the mid 90s, and I got my patent only in 96, and I started the company in 96.
Hmm. Hmm. Okay. Okay. And after this, you sort of got into telemedicine as
Yes.
well.
Telemedicine is another, of course, in my opinion, it's the most innovative thing. The reason being, the practice of medicine over the last however years we know has been similar. People go to the doctor, and in my family, we have a lot of doctors. My wife is a physician, she's a neurologist, and my son is a neurosurgeon. And I have many relatives, a lot of, in fact, in my family, of close family, there are 27 physicians. So I know a lot about medical things because whenever we meet, and also a lot of friends we meet, they're all physicians, we talk about medical things. But the service part of it, technology, medical technology is, it's growing, no question about it. But the actual service, providing service, healthcare service, is not changed very much. People go to the doctor, doctor looks at and they prescribe and things like that. So I thought maybe one of the things to think about is using technology into the healthcare service. So that is when we started the so-called second opinion. You don't need to go to anybody. Use the telemedicine platform. And in fact, I have a patent on that platform, by the way. That would be the way to do and that is happening now. Of course, the pandemic made it very, very, almost needed because they didn't want to go, and that is happening. And that company, Second Opinion Expert, is doing very well. And they provide various kind of remote services. In fact, now one of the things they're working with is the remote sensors various with people can have, so they don't need to go to the emergency room, they don't need to go to the hospitals if something happens, because remotely the physicians or the team can check on it and make sure, and then they can provide the appropriate service without really transporting the patient, unless of course it is serious, something very important. But otherwise, about 70 to 80% can be all taken care of in a remote environment. So the telemedicine is the, I think will be the future for the medicine throughout the world.
Hmm. Excellent, excellent. And kind of, we could go back more into your own personal life. Uh, how did it feel like being an immigrant?
Yes,
What
I
were
wrote
your
a book. I wrote a book. I don't. Yes, yeah. The This book is called Autobiography of an Immigrant, and
Hmm.
it has, of course, you can get the ebook, meaning digital book. You can get a hardcover, and you can also get a soft cover, and also it has a audiobook, so you can just listen to. So those are all available and in Amazon, and I think it's available in Barnes and Noble, I mean different places. In fact, I recently got the same book published in India with another publishers, Invincible, because it's a little expensive in India, American book. So they got it published at reasonably cost effective. So that is coming. So the reason I brought up the book, I kind of tell my life story as an immigrant in that book. So I'm like a open book. If anybody reads, they will know more about me, anything. So it's an interesting, meaning, of course, the I have personally not experienced any uh, discrimination, which is a kind of a true statement. However, I have seen quite a bit of discrimination, seen not through myself, but I have, in many ways, in many areas, uh, right from the beginning. Of course, when you come as a young student, uh, you don't know anybody, and you just have to, make sure that you act accordingly to get, people like you. You have a desire that somebody people like you, so that you don't get treated bad. So which was not that difficult for me, because it's a very simple and very active as a student. In a very beautiful city, Pasadena, they all looked fine and no problem. But as I start seeing things, especially the discrimination, not really against immigrants alone or immigrants, people of color. So I started seeing that, and so that you feel kind of that it affects you. I mean, I'm not that dark, but I am not white at all. For example, a very close friend of mine from India,
Hmm.
uh, he wanted to rent a place. This is in Santa Monica. He wanted to rent a place which is advertised as a, it's ready to be rent. So he went and saw the place, and the landowner, they said, "Oh, it's already taken. Yeah, we can't rent you." So he told me as a casually, and I said, he's much darker than me, by the way. So I said, that doesn't make sense. So let me go. So I went to the same place, same, just to check on it because I didn't need the place. So I went there. They said, sure, it's available for you. I mean, I'm not white, but I'm not that dark. So of course, I didn't take the place. I came back and told him. So that gave me an impression on how uh, there is a discrimination. I
Hmm.
mean, it's clear. I mean, this is a very, I mean, people renting a place, I don't know why they're going to get the same rent or even sometimes more, but why they don't want. So there is that it may be a racial feeling, I don't know, but that I did experience through a friend of mine. But it didn't, because I did get that they would have given me the place, but I didn't take it. So I just want to give you that thing. And it throughout my, I mean, like for example, I have, successful in business, raised a lot of money, private and public, and no problem. There is nothing. But I have heard cases and I've seen then when some people like that go and try to get that support, they did not. So it is prevailing. I'm trying to see whether what role I could play to correct to some extent, but it is going to be tough. But it is improved. You know,
Hmm.
when we talk about 1967, of course, 68, Martin Luther King uh, died. I mean, was killed, and that created all kind of activities. I mean, things have changed. You know, things have changed. And like I was working. This is again in 1968 for with George, Bobby Kennedy for his election. In fact, I was present at the day at the Ambassador Hotel when he gave the last victory speech, and I was a few feet away from him. And that evening, after the speech, within maybe 15 minutes, he got killed. So those are very interesting experience I witnessed in my, and I have kind of stated in my book what kind of reaction I have based on all those events. I mean, it's a great journey, no question about it. But things are improving, but there's more room to improve. And in
Wow.
some way, we are going backward to some extent. Like last, I'm a lawyer. Actually a constitutional law lawyer. I like constitutional law, and I am very, very much into studying the Supreme Court decisions. And like now, this last one of the last cases, which about this abortion, which is becoming now constitutional right. And Clarence Thomas has brought in now many interesting cases. Uh, Brown versus Board of Education, uh, Allowing versus Virginia. Many cases which came from the same concept of uh, so-called privacy in the 14th Amendment. And if you remove the privacy in the 14th Amendment, all these cases will fall. So I don't know. I have a feeling we may be going little backward rather than going forward. So that's a
Hmm.
concern I have. I just want to share that. This is my personal opinion. I don't know what others think about it. So if things go that way, we have some major problems.
Hmm. Okay. Okay. And do you think, how do you feel about that coming into the future, like with your kids and the future generation of your family? You think it's going to get better as well?
I mean, in that area, I don't know whether it will get better. I think it will affect, it will have an impact, no question about it. I hope people become, more uh, intelligent or smarter or uh, uh, find it is in the best interest of, I mean, we, meaning America, is the so-called the best place to live or best place to move upward. But if there are these restrictions, and if we go backward, like of course we have already gone backward on the privacy right of women, healthcare, and if you go backward into interracial marriage or go backward into separate but equal, and things like that happens, that's not the right place to have your family grow. But I hope this will change. I'm fundamentally an optimist. I mean, that has helped me in my all my activities. So but it is tough, very tough to be optimist when you see some these type of results.
Yeah, yeah. And you were mentioning your law degree a lot. So is that your Juris Doctor degree or?
It's a JD.
Oh,
I'm a licensed lawyer. I worked. I'm still. I mean, I don't help in the real legal work with them. I used to. I have taken a lot of cases. I've created certain laws and things like that by appealing and all. But I generally provide now advice because I sit on the boards of companies. I provide legal kind of advice to seek the right type of a law firm to make the real legal work.
And then additionally, you have a doctorate in astrodynamics.
Yes, that's a science. That's totally totally away from everything.
Exactly. You're so versatile. Where did that come from?
I think my belief is if you are good in one, I think
Hmm.
you're good in practically everything. I mean, of course not. I can't sing. I can't. I mean, I used to play basketball, but I have no that capability. I used to, even as a young boy, I used to play soccer. Soccer, there's the Indian footballer at the time. So, but I'm not good at it. I mean, I even played a little bit of golf, but I'm not very good at all. So, but in the if you're good in like mathematics, or if you're good in, that means you will be good in logic, you will be good in physics, that means in the scientific things, when practically work in a law is really an extension of logic. So if you're good in mathematics, you just of course you have to know the history and the things, but it is a very very natural transformation. So it's nothing, you cannot be a great musician being a mathematician, unless you have some genetic talent in it. I mean, I don't know whether this is true. That's what I believe.
Well, it seems to have worked, for you at least. Yeah. Excellent. Excellent. And again, when you wrote this book, what impact did you want from this book?
I just want to be. There are three goals. The
Hmm.
goal number one, it is something for my children and grandchildren, my their lineage, to know where we are coming from, because we live. My children are born here, America. My grandchildren are born in America. They, even though we have visited India, they don't know much about what has happened to me, or what my background, how, what my roots are, what my parents and my grandparents. So I just want to get that information back to them, even though they may not read it now. But as they grow, they will read and they can kind of relate to their roots or cultural relationship. That was purpose one. The purpose two is really, America is full of immigrants. In fact, everybody is an immigrant except the local, so-called Indians. I mean, they are the natural, people from America. But everybody came either now or much, years before. So generations, they all immigrant uh, kind of qualities. So I just want to share that my into among, so everybody can relate to their, whether it's your first generation or second generation or newcomer, so they can relate and understand, and what kind of things you can do to become assimilated with the society at large. That's the second goal. The third goal is, because I'm an entrepreneur, so if anybody wants to start a business, and I have, I mean, not everything what you need to start a business, but there is a lot of my experiences, my failures, my challenges, or my successes. It could be used as a reference guide, and they can do certain things or they shouldn't do certain things. So that
Hmm.
would be more like a guidance to them. So that's the three goals of my book. And I've got a lot of good feedback from those who have read, so that it serves all the three purposes.
Excellent. What are some of your favorite tips in the business part for that in that book?
Okay. When I talk about business, I always talk about there are three ingredients.
Hmm.
One is the so-called team. Whether it's a team, could be one person. I am the team, but you need to have the right people. I mean, generally, you cannot do, as you grow, you have to bring other people. So the team is the most valuable thing, any business. If you don't have the right team, it won't be successful. Even if you have a one bad apple, it spoils the whole thing. So the team is important. We can go into much more detail, but that is one. Number two, you have to have the right product or service, or product as a service. You have to come up with what is required in the community or the customer. So you have to know, and it could be a disruptive, something new, something innovative. Product is the key. Whether it is, it doesn't matter which industry you're in. That's the next part. And the third is uh, the capital. You need the sufficient capital, uh, such until at least it become sustainable, so that it generates revenue. And if of course you still further, you may need capital to grow faster. So capital becomes, but there's, all are equally important, but the most important is the team, because team has to navigate it through all the difficulties, challenges, and surprises, and do the, again, do the right thing to be successful. And that's a one message. I mean, there are, several tips you can get. That's the most important. And then you have to have a, as a person who go into this business, because a lot of, for example, if you even look at the smartest people coming from India, I mean, what I have seen, they all work for a big company and become, senior management, CEOs. These are bright people, very talented. But it's different to be a founder and start your own company. Even though you can be very successful, you can be, but I consider this is more valuable than being a CEO. Of course, the CEO of Microsoft is an Indian, CEO of Google, an Indian. I mean, there are many of them from India, but I value the guy who started the company, like I've done, or people. That is much, much, much more difficult and challenging, but and I think rewarding. I mean, in reward is, it's not just making money. Money is, I mean, you can make money in any way, but it is something you feel you have accomplished. So that, I think starting a company is the right thing to do. I would encourage everybody to at least try, and if you can make it, then you are, successful. So the tips again is, if you believe in you, because you have to believe in yourself. Nobody believes in you more than you. And if you believe in you that you can make that destination, you can reach that goal, then you should start the journey and try that, and you will be successful. So that those are kind of a few messages I want. That is, you have to. People are afraid to do things, because
Hmm.
I have worked at JPL, one of the NASA centers. I've met brilliant people. I mean, really, really much, much, much more brilliant or knowledgeable than me. I've met them, and the reason they're happy, they like the status quo. They don't, they don't want to. That's an inertia built in, because you're happy, you do the right thing, you get, so you don't want to take the plunge into something unknown. And but those are the people, those who plunge into unknown can really be much more I mean, that's, those challenges are, in my opinion, much more rewarding than working for an institution. I mean, then you start and it becomes an institution, then you move on, bring in somebody else to run it, you do something else. So that's the way I look at it.
Excellent. And this may be a pretty basic question, but how do you build a team?
Yes, that is it's not a basic question. That is the toughest job. First
Hmm.
of all, you have to bring people together who believe in, like you, what your beliefs are. And they have to be the integrities, not just the knowledge of, they may know technology, or they can do certain things very well. That's important, of course. Good, great academic credentials, those are all important. But in the core principle is the honesty, the integrity of the individual. That is the most valuable thing you should look for. If you suspect, I mean, you may not know that, when you see for the first time and all, but you have to do some research. You have to have a gut feeling this is the right person. That's the advice I always tell. Sometimes you make a mistake, but when you make a mistake, correct it. Get rid of the person as soon as you feel uncomfortable. But you should have the team which has similar qualities as you.
Wow. And what do you mean by similar qualities?
I mean, you should be, like for example, very adventurous for the reaching the target. I mean, you have a goal. Okay, I'm going to do it. Like for example, I say when I start a company, actually I want every company successful. If not, I'll walk away to become a public company, or such that it becomes a very very successful. Then you transfer the management to more capable people, those who are experienced in running public company and things like that. So I think it's you should have a, okay, this is one thing I tell: think big, start simple. That is, you need to have the big picture in place, but then you take simple steps and make it happen.
Mm, mm. All right. That's a very interesting
One more
thing.
thing I
Big.
do, one more thing I tell people, I have, of course, it's nothing, what I'm saying is mine. I learned from others. It's all, I'm copying other people, but without really identifying where I copied from, because I don't know in general. But one thing, another thing I tell them, it is not the net worth of you is important. It is the network you have. Network you have is more valuable to you in the big picture than the net worth you have. So, I mean, something to think about. That means there is always people there, more than you. So you want to be connected with them.
How did you make a strong network?
I mean, through, and of course, I have privilege to work with smart people. And once you meet a smart person, is thinks like me, they have a smart people friends. It's a viral. It's a viral. I
Hmm.
mean, I've been lucky to be associated with very capable people, and they, of course, capable people. So I took advantage of it.
Hmm.
It's a.
Advantage. Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Yeah. For advantage. Did you mean you built relationships?
Yeah. Once you make relationship, the when you connect with them, the travel is both ways.
Hmm.
They want something what I could provide, and I certainly would get something they could provide. It's a mutually beneficial.
Ah.
Always mutually beneficial. It is not all, I mean, whether I get so much and they get, no. It's even just an advice. If even they may not do anything, but I call them and bounce some ideas. What do you think? They will say, uh-huh, maybe you may want to think about this, which I have not really. So that's a fantastic input. And I've been lucky and privileged of having that.
Hmm.
And even today, every day that happens.
Wow. Okay. And
And
when it comes,
another
yeah.
thing, I just want, every day you learn something new. And
Okay.
learning is an ongoing process. Is people you think I know everything, I know the solution. I think they are making a big mistake. No, nobody knows everything. You can learn even, I mean, I even learn from my grandchildren. They ask some really strange questions sometimes, but of course it's a very simple, but they ask and you pick something in, and then take advantage, meaning you become better a person. So you can learn from anybody.
Excellent. And speaking of learning, your children also seem to be quite successful as well. Did you teach them a lot of this stuff you've learned too?
And you see, it's not teaching them. The words are not the most valuable thing, in my opinion.
Hmm.
It is the deeds. They learn by looking at you, seeing your activities. So you can teach, like people who can say, "Oh, you shouldn't smoke," but you smoke once in a while. That gives a wrong impression. So it's not what you tell them; it is what you do. So my children have been, we don't really, we never told them, you should go to, study, do everything. But they did. They went to, in fact, both of them went, I have two boys, both of them went to the best high school in LA, also, in fact, second best high school in the country. So, Harvard Westlake High School, somebody can look at it. It is rated as the best school, and those are they went there. And my older son went to Brown. It's one of the, of course, it's not easy to get into the best school you want to, because its competition is very. So Brown is a good school. He got into Brown, and my younger one wanted to just go to Berkeley, so he went to Berkeley and got in. Then he went to, the older one went to UC's, University of California, San Diego Medical School. So it's a little cheaper than private medical school, whereas Brown is very expensive. Like Berkeley is cheaper than private. But then from Berkeley, he went to NYU Law School. So
Hmm.
that's a little bit more expensive. So they went to the best schools they could get in, and they applied and they got it. We didn't do anything. And they, one person became neurosurgeon and one person became a lawyer. So they're very, very successful. Success is a measure of. In fact, I have talked once uh, about success and happiness, and in fact, which comes first, success or happiness? If you are successful, you can be happy, but most of the time, if you are happy, you will be successful. So there
Hmm.
is that, which comes first in issue. In fact, I have a conversation with somebody on that topic, just that topic. I used spiritual things to bring that concept out. Just want to give you that thought. But anyway, my oldest granddaughter, she's studying law at Oxford. In fact, I just went to Oxford and gave a talk, or at Oxford University Business School, one of the world famous business schools in the world. And I just gave a talk, and it was very, very, very well received. I made a lot of friends. In fact, that is something I am proud of, because now I have friends who are in, big places. These are MBA students, was just finished. And they're all taking jobs, various big corporations, and some of them want to start a business. So they are asking me how to me I could help them, and I'm in the process of working with them as an example. So she's by the way, my granddaughter wrote the foreword for my book. She very short but very sweet, very nice. And I introduced her to the my when I gave the lecture, and she became a little popular among that group now, because she happened to be a law student right there. So and the reason I'm saying is, so it's not what you tell your children or grandchildren; it is what you do. They look at you, they become aspirational, and they'll become successful. If you
Hmm.
just tell them to do, they may resist. It's more, you just tell them. I always tell them, do what they like to do best. But then they see what I am doing or their parents are doing or whatever, uh, they will follow. If you don't force them, and many Indian parents do that, they are, because they know better than them. They know what is good for them. But I don't think that's a good idea. You should give them. If you're like a good in music, let them become a musician. If you're good in soccer, let them become a soccer player. You should encourage what they want to. But whatever you do, they look at you and they will, you know, kind of try to imitate you, not what you tell them. That's just my experience.
Hmm. This has been an excellent interview.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah.
And just to,
I'm
yeah,
very happy
yeah.
to. Your questions are so good. I was not planning to discuss all these things because I didn't think about it. But since you brought up, you kind of triggered a certain thing, and I'm responding to that.
No problem. You give very good responses too. Thank you.
Thank you.
And this is just kind of the last question here. If you could go back in time and speak to your younger self, what would you tell him?
To me, right? To myself, right?
Yes.
Yeah. I think I I have accomplished, or I have been the beneficiary of events. I have, it's nothing is really planned. In fact, when I came to America, or even to coming to America, that didn't is a, it's a very, very hard. I don't know whether you are familiar with those days. Information is very restricted. I came from a small village with no electricity, no power when I was doing my high school education. It's all under kerosene oil and all. I mean, it's not exaggeration. That's the truth. But I, of course, I moved from to a big better school after my high school and all. But then I was very lucky to know more about America, and I did some research, and I want to apply to the best schools in the world or in the country, the US, and I did apply, and even the application fees. There is an application fee which is very hard in India at that time to get foreign currency because there are a lot of restrictions. I mean, we are talking about primitive age, but you can always do in certain. So I couldn't apply to many schools. I could only apply to one few. I mean, I applied to all the best: Caltech, MIT, Stanford, Harvard, and one in Canada. But I thank God I got admission to all of them. And not only admission, I got scholarship. Otherwise, I could not have come. But it all events. It's not just me. It's certain things happened, and I didn't plan anything. And like when I came here, started. Then I went to work for. I got a job at JPL, and one turned into another. So I don't know whether I can go back and tell, oh, you should have done this, or it's a. I think the things are not really in your, you can't predict. You just have to follow and do the best out of the circumstances. I don't know whether I did all the best, but I did some of the best, if not. This is before, like in 1974, Microsoft started. I could have joined Microsoft those days. If I joined them, things would have been much. I mean, you never know. There is no rehearsal. There is nothing. This is things are like when Google started. I was I just finished the stamps and came out, and that's the time Google's. I could have joined them. I mean, all these things could have happened if you really, but no, those things are not in your control. You just have path, follow your path. You create your path and go forward. I mean, that's just my thinking. I don't know whether I could advise anybody. I mean, anything different for me myself to advise. No, there are many opportunities that are there. For example, I just want to let you know, I was uh, classified a 1A, and they actually inducted me to join the military to ship me to Vietnam. But I was at the time working as an employee for North American Defense Command from here, but in Cheyenne Mountain in Colorado on a defense program. But there is no restrictions because I was 1A, and I got orders to report to really go to the training for going to Vietnam. But the 2 days or 3 days before I have to go and report, I got a letter from the commanding officer saying that we want you here, then go to Vietnam. So you got an occupational deferment. That, you see, it's totally not your control. Nothing you can do. But I was ready to go to Vietnam. I thought, okay, I'll have a vacation in Vietnam. I mean, of course, that may not be a very pleasant vacation, but I was ready to do that. So I just want to let you know. So events are not within your control. Things happen, sometimes for the good, sometimes not so for the good. But you navigate all those things in the best way you can.
Hmm.
So it's not, life is not bed of roses. It's always very. In fact, many of my friends, when the Vietnam thing came, they said you either go to Canada or you go back to India. You don't go Vietnam. That was my friends advised me. I thought about it. I considered, because these are real, genuine friends. They knew, many people go to Vietnam, they don't come back. So, but I said no. I because America paid me, whatever the help they. So I have a moral obligation to pay back, and this is what they want. I'll do it. But I didn't go, by the way. So
Excellent.
yeah, I
Yeah.
just want to share with you the full background. Some of these things are in the book. So
Yeah. Great. And just to end this off, are there any final words you'd like to give to the audience? Any final pieces that?
I mean, my advice to anybody, whether you're young, middle aged, or old, you should do what you like the best, whatever the time. Like if you're even at the older age, you believe that, like for example, during the pandemic years, people have been, kind of, they can't go out, they can't do things. You think you want to go and see places, travel if you can afford, of course. I think do what you want to do. Don't worry about other things. So same thing for a young person. Whatever your interest is, you sharpen it, enjoy, and do it. Same thing in the people in the middle. Of course, we are happy, continue to do. But if you want to do something, there is no other time to experience it. It won't be later. There is nothing different is going. If you want something, do it now. That's the kind of a advice I would like to give.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you. This has been an excellent interview. You've given some wonderful advice. You've given some great answers. Appreciate it.
Thanks a lot. Of course, you must be talking to many people, and you will come across all kind of different type of people. And you are so young and energetic. I want you the best in your growth. I thank you for giving me an opportunity to talk to you.
All right. Appreciate it. So, okay. Thank you all for listening. And we just have to do a few shout outs here. The first thing is Six Figure University. These are a group of entrepreneurs focused on teaching you how to make six figures. Check them out on their website, Six Figure University. All right. And then we've got Judy from LifeWork Systems. She's one of our collaborative partners, and she basically helps improve business infrastructure, an HR superstar. And we also have a YouTube channel. Subscribe to us now. We're growing in subscribers. You're helping us out here, guys, so just keep on subscribing. And additionally, we have a Roku TV channel. Check us out. This episode will also be on Roku TV as well. Thank you again for watching us. Thank you for listening to the Jimbo Parish Show.